Discover the incredible moment a millionaire was transformed by a hidden cleaner's dance. Surpr. Ethan Mackenzie often heard whispers of success echo through the sleek glass corridors of his law firm. Each accolade etched his name deeper into the wall of the American dream. Yet beneath the tailored suits and prestigious cases, a gnawing emptiness lurked in the corners of his mind. Alone in his office, surrounded by high-stakes legal briefs, nights melted into a blur of caffeine and desperation. The hum of office chatter faded into a monotone. His heart, once a steady drum of ambition, faltered under the weight of crushing solitude. On a particularly grueling night, with his mind spiraling like the whirlpool of ambition that defined him, a beat drifted through the silence, luring him outside his isolated bubble. Curiosity pulled him from his desk, compelled him into the corridor. There he felt time suspend as he spotted Judy, an overlooked cleaning woman, lost in her own world. Her dance was electric, a blend of vibrant movements cut through the sterile atmosphere, lifting spirits with each calculated step. They shared the same floor yet belonged to different worlds, and for a fleeting moment, Ethan questioned all he chased. Was this joy truly worth sacrificing? As Judy swayed, he was struck by the intensity of her passion. Yet the familiar prick of vigilance surged through him, the sharp reminder of deadlines, competition, and the relentless pursuit that dictated his life. He's been defined by success, yet what was success without fulfillment? He retreated, shaking off the nagging thoughts. Each waking, breathless moment was filled with legal phrases and strategy. His future glittered before him like an unattainable star. Just as the taste of ambition danced on his tongue, memories of Judy flickered and taunted him. Days morphed into a haze as he buried himself deeper in work. Her vibrant dance echoed in his mind during all-nighters, clashing with late-night conference calls and review meetings. Weeks passed, and the anticipation of an all-important trial loomed. Yet rather than focusing solely on pending cases, Ethan often caught himself spiraling back to the ballerina in the shadows. As days turned into frantic weeks, he found himself drawn to Judy's dreams, a choreographer with a vision to inspire others. Each word about her aspirations ignited a flicker in his heart, an unfamiliar warmth that broke through his carefully constructed armor. It was absurd how she clung to her dreams amidst her reality, and it sent shockwaves through Ethan's own carefully composed life. The legal world swirled in his mind, a construct of ambition that separated him from the human experiences that mattered. Mahogany desks and polished floors meant little compared to the vitality sparking from her artistry. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Pressure mounted as he grappled with an unexpected dilemma. Embrace this woman's dreams and perhaps reawaken his own buried hopes, or retreat deeper into the land of accolades that defined him. The walls of his luxurious office felt like they were closing in, the spiral of existential dread tightening its grip. As he watched Judy prepare for her performance, her rehearsal a blend of raw talent and vulnerability, he stood paralyzed, wrestling between self-preservation and the urge to feel alive again. As the evening approached, the intensity of choice bore down on him. What would it mean to stand behind her, possibly revealing the void he fought to conceal? Would he dare relinquish the shiny trophies displayed on his mantle for something more profound but uncertain? Judy was on the brink of her breakthrough, yet here he was, while shadows of doubt swirled like storm clouds overhead. He felt a deep conflict within himself. The dance could either liberate him or plunge him deeper into oblivion. With each moment that passed, Ethan felt the divided road before him pulse with urgency, while the thrill of the unknown entwined with the desperate fear of being forever lost. Ethan stared at the door, its polished surface reflecting the flickering lights of their rehearsal space. He could hear the rustle of fabric as Judy practiced her movements, the soft thump of her feet against the floor, an echo of rhythm that surged with promise. Every beat beckoned him, urging him to step beyond the confines of his self-imposed prison. Yet, hesitation gripped him, tightening its noose around his chest. What did he know of taking risks beyond the courtroom? Adrenaline coursed through him, mingled with the heady aroma of possibility. Questions ricocheted in his mind, jostling for dominance. Was he ready to confront the hollow echo within? Could he unearth the passion he buried beneath his meticulously constructed life? As self-doubt clouded his thoughts, he found himself paralyzed by the fear of rejection, not of Judy, but of the very essence of who he thought he was. Judy was lost in her world of artistry, and in her presence he felt small, like an intruder. Yet as he observed her movements, he discerned something transformative. There was a pure joy in her dance, a celebration of life untainted by societal pressures. This was a reminder of what lay dormant inside him, a spark longing to ignite once again. A shudder traveled down his spine as he perceived a pivotal moment unfolding. Did he want to continue down a path starved of joy? The tip of the iceberg was visible just under the surface of his psyche, and he finally felt compelled to dive deeper. Swallowing hard, he turned toward the sound of her rehearsals, the atmosphere vibrant with hope. Gathering the remnants of his courage, he stepped through the door. Judy halted, her eyes widening in surprise as they met his. A moment stretched as unspoken words hung in the air between them. The pulse of the music faded, and the chatter of the office seemed a world away. "Ethan," she breathed, a mixture of curiosity and wariness in her gaze. "What are you doing here?" He stammered, his heart racing. I'm here to help." The words fell clumsily from his lips, yet an unexpected resolve surged beneath the surface. There it was, the veil lifting, a whisper of the man he might still become. "Help?" she replied, an edge of skepticism threading through her voice. "You mean help or become one of those who take but never reflect?" "I want to understand," he replied, genuine determination saturating his tone. "I'm tired of just watching from a distance. I want to feel, truly feel." He watched as Judy assessed him, her expression oscillating between incredulity and cautious hope. "This isn't just a hobby, Ethan, it's a life. Are you ready for that?" The gravity of her question formed a knot deep within him. Could he genuinely commit to her dream as a means to awaken his own? The thought surged with possibility, yet fell against the reality of his rigid existence. He contemplated the sacrifices it demanded. "Maybe I need to experience that life," he finally confessed, the sincerity pouring from him like an unchained river. "I want to navigate uncertainty and challenge myself beyond the limits of my ambition. Will you let me be part of your journey?" Surprise softened her features, yet the flicker of excitement remained. Dance is not a solitary experience. It requires vulnerability. Are you prepared to expose yourself? With every word, the connection between them deepened. The path ahead was murky, and uncertainty hung in the air like a heavy mist. Ethan understood that stepping into her world might bring more than he bargained for, an awakening that could shatter the remnants of his carefully constructed facade. "Oh, I'm ready to be vulnerable," he responded, his voice steadier than he anticipated. "But first, teach me your art. Teach me to dance." As her eyes lit up with intrigue, he felt a small thrill at the idea of confronting the invisible barrier that had held him captive for so long. The exhilarating weight of possibility washed over him, yet shadows lurked at the periphery. Would he be able to survive the upheaval that loomed? Judy extended her hand, a silent invitation, but both were acutely aware. Once he embarked on this journey, there would be no turning back. As Ethan clasped her hand, the air crackled with new beginnings, potent against the shadows of his past. Yet the critical question loomed. Would he soon discover that his newly awakened passion could withstand the inevitable challenges it might bring? Ethan stepped onto the floor, a simple gesture that felt like a leap into the unknown. The polished wooden surface glimmered under the overhead lights, yet his reflection appeared foreign, a book of unwritten chapters in a narrative he never thought to explore. He felt a mix of trepidation and excitement swirl within him like the pulse of music he could hear in the background, a call to join a rhythm he had long ignored. Judy's presence filled the space with energy, her laughter bubbling over as she adjusted her posture in preparation for the next movement sequence. He felt drawn to her in a way that was both exhilarating and terrifying. This wasn't merely a dance studio. It was the boundary where potential collided with old habits and fears, each waiting to be acknowledged. "Okay, Ethan," Judy said, her tone both light and serious. "Let's start with the basics. Dance is all about feeling the music in your body. It's about connecting your emotions to your movements. Can you do that?" The question lingers, sparking a flurry of thoughts. What did he feel? The weight of his past expectations? The suffocating embrace of routine? He was confronting a personal truth he had concealed beneath layers of professional success. His life had been devoid of authenticity, overshadowed by a facade of certainty. "I'll try," he said, his voice steadier than before. Shyness still interwove with his determination, but he knew there was a fire within him that yearned to be acknowledged. As Judy guided him through the first steps, he focused on synchronizing his movements with the rhythm of the music, a complicated choreography of vulnerability and courage. With each clumsy attempt to mirror her fluidity, doubt crept in like an unwelcome shadow. He stumbled, his body betraying his desire to express what words couldn't convey. The once invigorating anticipation frayed into frustration. "I'm not getting this," he muttered, a tight knot forming in his stomach. "Stop thinking," Judy encouraged, her voice gentle yet firm. "Let your body lead. You are not a lawyer on trial here. Dance is not about judgment, it's about freedom. Take a breath and just feel." Her words resonated deeply, shattering the mental cage he had built around himself. With each breath, he let go of the fear of being inadequate, slowly becoming aware of the undercurrents of emotion longing to surface. The music swelled, and he began to move without a roadmap, letting instinct guide him. Suddenly, a flicker of clarity ignited within him. He remembered the joy of playing the piano as a child, an experience filled with notes that danced freely across the keys. Could this be akin to that forgotten ecstasy? The barriers he erected as a man lost in ambition had quieted that inner musician for years, leaving him devoid of authentic connection. As he swayed and turned, something unexpected blossomed. The thrill of spontaneity lifted the corners of his mouth into a smile. Laughter bubbled up as he executed a silly spin, immediately finding comfort in his newfound mistakes. For the first time in as long as he could remember, he felt truly alive. "See?" Judy clapped enthusiastically. "That's it. You're starting to find your rhythm. Dance it out." The haunting voice of self-doubt still whispered in his ear, but courage pressed back with relentless insistence. Each movement became a stepping stone toward a more profound identity, one where Ethan was not merely a lawyer, but a man trying to embrace all the intricacies of life. But amidst the exhilaration, doubts lingered. What would this unexpected intimacy demand of him? How would this transformation reverberate through the carefully ordered life he had crafted? As Judy continued to lead him through combinations, Ethan could feel the lines of his existence begin to blur. He realized he needed to confront not only the challenge of dance, but also the implications of opening himself up in profound ways. "Ethan." Judy stopped suddenly, her hand resting on his arm. "This journey will hurt sometimes, and it'll challenge everything you know about yourself. Are you ready for that?" Her gaze was intense, filled with a smoldering intensity that made his heart race. His mind churned, weighing the exhilaration against potential injury, of both body and spirit. But beneath that anxiety flickered a burgeoning flame of purpose. "Yes," he replied, the word a declaration, a promise to himself. "I'm ready to see where this leads." As enthusiasm surged through him, all he could think was, could he become the man he was destined to be, one dance step at a time? Yet an unsettling question gnawed beneath his resolve. What if the dance ultimately exposed not just his hidden talents, but the emotional scars he had buried so deep he feared their resurfacing? Each class unfolded like pages of a new chapter. With every lesson, Ethan's movements began to transform from awkward rigidity into something more fluid. The rhythm he discovered within was a revelation, echoing not just in his limbs, but resonating in the dormant parts of his identity. The studio became his sanctuary, a space devoid of judgment but rich with exploration. Yet, as he grappled with the liberation dance offered, it was impossible to ignore the feelings roiling beneath that newfound exhilaration. Dancing was not merely a skill to master, it was a mirror reflecting all he had denied. The more he danced, the more he exposed layers of himself previously kept on lockdown by his professional armor. Could he still step into the world as the formidable attorney everyone knew, while fully embracing the vulnerable artist he was becoming? Judy's approach remained unwavering. She pushed him, never allowing him to retreat into self-doubt for long. Trust your instincts, Ethan. Dance is about more than just your body. It's your mind and heart, too, she insisted as they practiced a particularly challenging sequence. Her eyes bore into him, challenging him to dig deeper. His challenges multiplied. Every day he confronted that gnawing question, how much of his past would he have to unearth? There was a comfort in the predictability of his former life, yet with every sway and turn, he uncovered slivers of joy previously obscured by years of responsibility. Still, the thought of being exposed scared him. One class brought an unexpected traffic of emotions to the surface. As he attempted a series of turns, memories swept in. Visions of late nights at the office, missed celebrations, the haunting silence of his apartment. The traces of regret threatened to drown him in an oppressive wave. He stumbled, the ground seeming to rise beneath him, words of a meeting he had once distanced himself from echoing loudly. Your work is your legacy. Ethan, Judy's voice sliced through his spiral of thoughts. Focus, dance through it, don't let memories anchor you down. That challenge broke through the haze, igniting a determination within him. With every beat, every note, he summoned the courage to embrace not just his past but the friction of the present. He could choose how to interpret those memories. They didn't have to be chains. He propelled himself forward, losing himself in the music once more, but not without a consciousness of the struggle that lingered. After the class he held back, watching others leave in their dance of life. In them he could see flashes of what freedom could feel like. But his personal moment of revelation was swiftly shadowed by lingering doubt. The upcoming annual firm gala beckoned him, a space that served as the pinnacle of his professional success, but felt suffocating with expectations. Would he be able to reconcile these two worlds during such an event? As he faced himself in the studio mirror, a kaleidoscope of light glimmered on the wooden floor, revealing a path forward. Ethan realized he needed to face this amalgamation of identities, and not shy away. The question shifted subtly, sparking a realization. What if he could actually integrate this new awareness into the very fabric of who he was? Are you ready to redefine what success looks like for you? He whispered, more to the reflection than anyone else. The upcoming gala loomed with the potential to either cement his identity or expose the cracks in his carefully constructed facade. The moment of integration was approaching, leaving him to navigate a complex web of ambition, vulnerability, and the authentic self he was discovering in dance. Then an unexpected thought struck him, igniting a mix of fear and exhilaration. What if he used that event as a stage, not of professional accolades, but of personal authenticity? Could he afford to reveal this version of himself in a room filled with lawyers and clients who knew him only as he once was? Just then, Judy's laughter chimed from the entrance, breaking his reverie. Ethan, ready for next class? He squared his shoulders, an unexpected fire in his gut. I think I am, he replied. But first I need to decide who I want to be at that gala. Preparation for that defining moment began, leaving lingering questions in its wake. Would this dance lead him to a confrontation not just of talent, but of his perceived identity? The truth was waiting. What would he ultimately choose to reveal? Ethan stepped into the studio once again, the familiar scent of polished wood and sweat clinging to the air, both invigorating and daunting. The music pulsed in the background, appealing to the rhythms he had grown accustomed to with each passing class. Today, however, there was an added tension to his movements, both a preparation and a confrontation with the gala looming just days away. Judy was there, her presence a blend of energy and focus as she watched him with those keen, observant eyes. Let's do it again, Ethan. I want to see that resolve in your dance. What you feel inside should shine outside. As he moved through the sequence, each step felt like an unveiling, not just of his skill but of emotions and realizations he had only recently become aware of. The quick turns no longer felt like an escape. Instead, they resonated with a deep internal harmony. He was no longer just an attorney stepping into a rhythm. He was an artist on the brink of self-discovery. Yet each pirouette seemed to challenge him to confront the stark dichotomy of his life. On one side was the polished lawyer, the powerhouse who thrived on intellect and negotiation. On the other was the burgeoning dancer, shedding every layer of corporate-induced armor. Ethan needed to bring these disparate parts to the forefront. The very essence of dance was integration, and that principle weighed heavy on him now. "Stop!" Judy's voice sliced through his flow. "You're holding back. Where is that fire? Let go of that fear you're clutching so tightly." His heart raced at the truth behind her words. He was gripping the very notions of identity that had defined him for years. Drawing a deep breath, he forced himself to move again, channeling the doubts into a more expressive performance. As he danced, he visualized the gala, the suits and the ties, but juxtaposed with that image was the real Ethan, free, flowing, unapologetically himself on that stage. A sudden warmth surged through him, and for the first time, he felt his body genuinely resonate with the music, his motions rooted in authenticity instead of perfection. Memories of the late nights spent in the office, of lonely dinners in empty rooms, began to dissolve with each beat. He found himself not as a courtroom warrior but as a human being in the truest sense. "Good. Yes, that's it," Judy cheered as his body responded with even more vigor. Still, the palpable tension lingered. The image of standing in front of his colleagues and clients, layered beneath the pressure of their expectations, remained vivid. What would they think when they saw him move with an authenticity that seemed foreign to the buttoned-up lawyer they knew? Could he face their judgment without crumbling into self-doubt? Once the music faded, he collapsed onto the floor, breathless but exhilarated. Doubts still clawed at him, but the dance had revealed something crucial. Success had to be redefined. His eyes fixed on Judy, he asked, "How does one find the courage to be themselves, especially when the world expects otherwise?" She moved closer, sharing a knowing smile. "Courage comes from understanding that who you are inside is enough. The collaboration between your identity as an attorney and as a dancer is a beautiful expression of your journey. Embrace it." Those words ignited a spark in him. What if he didn't need to sacrifice one identity for another? The gala could be an opportunity, not a battleground. The next class would revolve around preparing a piece to present at the gala. He felt the edges of anxiety fray into anticipation. He needed to transform that stage into a platform, one that resonated beyond the realm of law into the heart of who he genuinely was. He stood, a deliberate breath filling his lungs. "Next class, I'll start working on something that reflects all of me." As Judy nodded in appreciation, Ethan realized he was genuinely on the precipice of a significant change. The tunes of his journey formed a unique melody, merging the organized structure of his career with the fluid artistry within. Determination surged again, but he left the studio with a feeling of unrest. Despite this new clarity, a lingering uncertainty hung above him. Could he really merge these identities in front of everyone he spent years building an image around? The moment of truth was approaching rapidly, and the stakes had never been higher. As he stepped outside, a gust of wind swirled around him, stirring up both resolve and apprehension. His heart raced as he realized it was time to prepare for the dance that would define him. What if the next steps led him to face not only the audience at the gala but his deepest fears about being truly himself? Ethan walked into the studio again. But this time the energy felt different. The air crackled with possibilities. A deeper purpose tinged his every motion, igniting a newfound fire within his core. He was more than just the polished lawyer now. He was an artist on the cusp of unveiling the truth of his dual existence. The rhythmic beats resumed, and with each note he craved a more profound expression. He focused intently on the choreography, but rather than merely executing the movements, he sought to infuse them with all that he had begun to understand about himself. Each step in the dance was no longer a simple reflection of technique. Now they mirrored his internal dialogue, his fears, and his desires. Judy, with her watchful gaze, picked up on his evolution. That's better, Ethan, let it flow. Dance is about vulnerability. Every moment is an invitation to show your authentic self. Her encouragement surged through him like a jolt of electricity. What had once felt like an overwhelming weight, being scrutinized by the corporate world, was now an opportunity. He could use this gala performance to bridge the divide he had felt within himself, to fuse attorney and dancer into a singular identity that embodied both his intellect and his expressiveness. With renewed determination, Ethan began to craft a narrative for his performance, one that told the story of his transformation. He envisioned each movement as a chapter in a life that had been fragmented by fear. He tried to pull threads from his past, the late hours in the office, the pressure of high-stakes negotiations, the sacrifices made on the altar of ambition, and weave them into something beautiful and cohesive. This dance wasn't just about impressing others. It was about him reclaiming ownership of his journey. After several classes, he found himself experimenting with improvisation, allowing the music to guide him rather than rigid choreography. This instinctual flow generated moments of true connection between mind and body, unlocking emotions buried beneath years of restraint. The dance began to reflect not just external skill, but internal evolution. Yet, the closer he got to the gala, the louder his doubts echoed. Each rehearsal stoked the flames of that familiar anxiety. What if he failed to convey who he truly was? What if they saw not the courageous artist, but the hesitant attorney still hiding in the shadows? The fear felt tangible, almost choking, as he rehearsed in front of a mirror, eyes darting between his reflection and his thoughts. The image of judgment pierced through him, skepticism from his peers, confusion from clients, whispers of disbelief at his transformation. In a moment of honesty, he halted mid-dance, the music fading into silence, and stared into the mirror, a reflection of two halves struggling to become one. "What if you let them see you?" whispered the inner voice that had grown louder with each passing day. Ethan gripped the edge of the mirror as he considered the implications of vulnerability. Would sharing his truth inspire others? Or would it invite criticism he wasn't prepared to face? He had spent years constructing walls, but perhaps now was the time to tear them down, both as a dancer and as a lawyer reimagining his career. With a simmering combination of fear and exhilaration, he resolved to gamble on authenticity. His performance would not just depict his skills in dance, but would articulate the poignant struggle for identity that lay beneath the surface. The stage would serve as a canvas, a space where he could connect the disparate worlds he navigated. As he prepared to walk out the door for yet another rehearsal, a sense of clarity intermingled with uncertainty flooded his thoughts. Heightened stakes faced him, but so did a glimmer of potential. He was ready to confront those judgments, to embrace them as part of his journey. The moment of truth was nearing. Would he rise to meet it, or would the fear of rejection hold him back? Ethan's fingers brushed the door handle, his heart pounding in sync with the rhythm of the music that beckoned him from inside. He took a deep breath, ready to discover what awaited him on that stage. Pain and joy intertwined in that moment, but one thought lingered above all. Could he truly become the version of himself he yearned to be? The next steps loomed ahead, an impending confrontation with both self and society awaited him. Inside the studio, Ethan was engulfed by the pulsating rhythm. Each note reverberated in him, pushing and pulling his body, urging him to delve deeper into the essence of what he wanted to express. He could no longer merely go through the motions. He had to excavate every emotion and layer of experience that he had tucked away. This was no longer ordinary practice. It was a reckoning. Stepping into the center of the studio, he closed his eyes for a moment. Each breath brought clarity as he wove together his attorney life, a life filled with power plays and cold logic, with the passion ignited beneath the stage lights. He felt the walls of his self-built fortress tighten around him, but within that confinement, adrenaline surged. This was his time to unveil the complexity of his existence. When he opened his eyes, a renewed vigor pushed him into motion. A swirl of limbs and shifting weight that felt both foreign and profoundly natural at once. In the reflection of the mirror, he didn't just see the polished lawyer. He saw a man wrestling with his identity, a mix of dreams and fears translated into every step and sway. As the music echoed through the room, he began to question every aspect of his performance. Did his gestures resonate authenticity, or were they mere echoes of practiced precision? Was he performing for himself, or was he still subconsciously seeking validation from those who had often doubted him? The questions churned internally, each more probing and uncomfortable than the last. In the middle of a leap, a sharp thought struck him. If his dance was an expression of self, he needed to confront the very essence of what had held him back for so long. Fear. Fear of judgment. Fear of inadequacy. Fear of failure. What if he exposed that fear through his art? The narrative could evolve into a fierce declaration that encompassed his struggles while still thriving on artistry. The idea invigorated him. Encouraged, he redirected his focus inward, allowing raw, unfiltered emotion to guide the choreography. Pain became a partner in movement, a shared experience dancing in tandem with strength. He tapped into moments from his past where he had felt isolated in the corporate milieu, staring blankly at complex legal documents while the metaphoric walls pressed close, or facing colleagues who saw flaws more than potential. Those memories propelled his movements to new heights. As Ethan's improvisation turned chaotic, he felt liberated. The intensity of vulnerability began to emerge in each fluid turn. The mirror showed a fractured reflection that was gradually being pieced together, but it also highlighted an unsettling truth. He was still battling expectations from the outside world. Each thrust and turn sought acceptance. Yet he couldn't ignore the voice that taunted him, the deep-seated fear that despite all his efforts, judgment awaited him just around the corner. Midway through a particularly intense sequence, a familiar figure stepped into the studio, his law firm's managing partner. She stood silently against the doorframe, arms crossed, an expression of confusion etched on her face. The flow of music halted abruptly, as if time had thrown a spotlight on the very moment that could either break him or empower him. Ethan's gaze met hers, a high-stakes confrontation unfolding. Was he ready to risk it all in front of an authority figure who represented everything he had tried to separate himself from? The air thickened with tension, and he stood frozen, breath hitching more from apprehension than fatigue. The real dance had just begun, and it trembled on the precipice of revelation. Would he turn away, retreat back into the safety of his lawyer persona, or would he seize this fork in the road to bridge both worlds he inhabited? His heart raced as he steeled himself for the next move. He was at a vital juncture in life. The choice was his. Would he embrace the stage with true vulnerability, or would fear pull him under? The answer lurked just beyond the threshold of action, waiting to be unveiled. Ethan's breath quickened as he remained locked in his moment of hesitation, his mind racing with conflicting emotions. The studio, once a sanctuary, transformed into a stage for self-exposure. The defending walls he'd meticulously built around his lawyer persona began to crack under the weight of his awareness. He could feel the managing partner's scrutinizing gaze piercing through him, dissecting his uncertainty with clinical precision. Would she recognize the longing beneath his jittery exterior? Did she see the artist trying to surface from the depths of his corporate armor? For a split second, dread clutched at him, threatening to drag him back down into the familiar depths of self-doubt. But amidst the chaos in his head, a flicker of resolve ignited. He drew in a deep breath, allowing the air to fill his lungs completely. This was the confluence of judgment and creation, a moment to redefine the terms of his existence. Would he continue to compartmentalize, or would he dare to blend these two seemingly disparate worlds into one unified expression? He locked eyes with her, a silent challenge exchanged between them. The dance before him was not only a physical expression, it was an embodiment of resilience, a declaration. He had faced adversities in the courtroom but proved more equipped for battles of logic than ones of emotion. Now an uncomfortable yet thrilling truth emerged. Perhaps this endeavor was not about mastering the art of dance, but about embracing imperfection and rawness as a form of strength. With renewed determination, Ethan pivoted his focus onto the task at hand. The music kicked back in, cascading over him like a wave, its rhythm urging him into action. He began to move, each step a rejection of the judgment he feared, each leap an assertion of his place in both arenas. As he danced, he merged his two identities, the analytical lawyer and the passionate performer, each movement reflecting the complexities of his life. Each spin carried the weight of his past, the nights spent preparing for trial that had drained him, the countless hours he invested trying to outsmart opponents instead of outfeeling himself. He pushed through layers of doubt, letting the music guide him as he wove in fragments of those memories, the loneliness, the battles with colleagues, the thirst for acknowledgement. They all became a choreography of their own, intertwining frustration and tenacity, brewing into a visceral narrative. Ethan glanced back at his partner as he danced, noting her shifting expression. The confusion had morphed into intrigue, eyes slightly widened, caught between skepticism and appreciation. A pivotal moment hung in the balance between fear and the audacity to be seen as he truly was. With every step, he became less concerned about her judgment and more about what he needed to reveal, to himself and to those who witnessed the culmination of years spent in confinement. As he leaped onto the metaphorical edge of vulnerability, his body conveyed more than mere movement. It expressed the anthems of unrestrained honesty and resilience, but the boundary between acceptance and rejection had grown thinner. The anticipated opinion of his managing partner loomed like a specter, eclipsing his newfound freedom. Would this performance earn her respect, or further entrench the duality he'd been trying to navigate? As the finale approached, he felt the tides shift within him, bracing for the verdict of a life pulled apart and reassembled before her watching eyes. Would he emerge empowered from this revelation, or would the weight of her judgment shatter the fragile bridge he was attempting to build between his worlds? The music slowed, every note stretching the air thicker with tension, lingering like a question just waiting to be answered. Ethan's heart pounded with fervor. The choice was nearing its climax. All he had to do was cast away the doubts and trust the dance he had created, the dance that threatened to redefine him forever. The echoes of the fading music clung to the air like a ghost, wrapping around Ethan as if it understood the weight of the moment. He stood there, suspended in the final pose, legs trembling, breath shallow. The spotlight that once felt oppressive now transformed into a guiding beacon, illuminating a version of him he had been afraid to explore. But fear still lurked at the edges of his mind, a relentless whisper threatening to pull him back into the cage of expectations. What if he had misread his partner's interest? What if the dim light of perception truly belonged to a critique rather than admiration? He straightened up, forcing a steady breath through his tightened chest. The finality of his performance felt like a battleground, and he had yet to see if he would emerge victorious. As the silence ensued, he anticipated the swirl of emotions that would come flooding in. The applause he once desperately craved felt tentative in its absence. Would he be celebrated or dismissed? Neither option seemed palatable. His partner finally broke eye contact, the moment stretching into an unbearable pause as she leaned forward slightly, her brows knitted together in thought. For Ethan, that small gesture felt like both a knife and a lifeline. It was the intersection of potential judgment and possible acceptance, an internal reflection mirrored in her demeanor. The tightly wound knot in his stomach churned. "That was unexpected," she finally said, the corners of her mouth curling into an uncertain smile. The tentative praise, though somewhat uplifting, felt like a half-hearted embrace. He could sense the struggle behind her words. She was grappling with the implications of what she had just witnessed. Ethan took a small step towards her, the space between them charged with the stillness of 1,000 unspoken thoughts. "I suppose it was," he replied, searching for clarity amidst the uncertainty. "It was more than just dance for me. It was something I needed to feel." Her gaze shifted, growing softer. "You're telling me that this was about more than just performing? That you let the tension and grief out on this stage?" "Absolutely. It's been a while since I've allowed myself to be vulnerable, to express instead of to argue," Ethan confessed, every word tumbling out like the final notes of a symphony. But as he spoke, he realized that each admission felt like a step towards the unknown. His partner regarded him with renewed intensity, finally breaking through her analytical facade. Do you see the implications of what you've done? You're merging two vastly different worlds, and you're risking a lot more than just an audience's opinion. She was right. The realization hit him with the force of a tidal wave, threatening to upend his carefully crafted balance. What he had unleashed on that stage was a revelation, a crack in the polished surface of his strong lawyer persona. Each step he had taken toward self-expression opened the door to potential criticisms that could undermine his professional reputation. Ethan felt the weight of his choice settle heavily on his shoulders. Was this awakening worth the risk, or would this dance ultimately undermine the career he had so painstakingly built? The specter of doubt now stood alongside the embers of hope. "You have a gift," she said, her voice steady but laced with caution. "You need to consider how you want to navigate this newfound path. It could mean redefining what success looks like for you." Those words struck a nerve, igniting both excitement and fear. Balancing his dual identities might not only advance his practices in law, but it also begged the question, would he have the courage to embrace this growth publicly, or would he retreat to the safety of his walls? As Ethan began to understand the profound challenge before him, a sudden urgency overtook him. It was time to confront not just the question of talent, but the possibility of his own evolution. The weight of the moment bore down, and he soon recognized this was merely the beginning of an arduous journey. Would stepping into his full authenticity unlock new doors, or would it invite resistance from those who could not embrace the depth of his revelation? And more importantly, could he face the ramifications it carried? With thoughts spiraling into uncharted territory, Ethan prepared to step not just off the stage but into an exploration that would redefine everything he believed about success, identity, and ultimately, himself. Ethan found himself at a crossroads where the weight of potential and consequence hung palpably in the air. The applause that was absent moments ago now pulsated in his chest, igniting a fervor within that he had yet to fully embrace. This dance had exposed him in ways he never anticipated. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. A realization washed over him. He was ready to confront the reality of his dual identity as a lawyer and an artist, interwoven at last. With each step he took away from the studio, he felt the ground beneath him shift. He would no longer be burdened by the suffocating expectations of his career, nor would he shy away from the thrill of creativity. Instead, he extracted a newfound strength from his vulnerability. It was a gift that opened possibilities. The firm's gala loomed just days away, and as preparations consumed him, an extraordinary transformation unfolded. He envisioned his performance as not just an expression of his artistry, but as a powerful revelation of authenticity. It was during a critical moment in a conversation with his managing partner that clarity struck. "Ethan, if you truly want to embody both sides of yourself, you must challenge everyone's perceptions in that room," she had said. The confidence in her tone resonated deeply within him. The metamorphosis began in earnest. He committed to melding his two worlds, devising a presentation that showcased both the analytical prowess of his legal mind and the emotive depth of his artistic journey. In the days that followed, the importance of self-acceptance emerged as the framework for his preparations. Hours spent in the studio were now palpably infused with a vision. Choreography grew more intricate. The emotion behind each movement deepened, spilling over from the confines of the dance floor into everyday life. He reclaimed the joy of creating from long-buried ambitions, merging the structured discipline of law with the fluid, spontaneous nature of the performing arts. When the night of the gala arrived, Ethan entered the venue with purpose. Under the glimmering chandeliers and amidst laughter and congratulatory nods, he felt both anticipation and a surge of adrenaline. Gone were the days of questioning whether he could juggle both worlds. He was ready to exemplify that dichotomy. As his turn approached to not just dance but to speak about his journey, a profound confidence enveloped him. Dressed sharply in tailored attire that signified both his lawyer's prowess and a touch of artistic flair, he stepped onto the stage with certainty. "Tonight I stand here not just as an attorney but as a person who embraces the fluidity of identities," he began, his voice steady and clear. With every spoken word, He forged connections with the audience, tearing down the barriers that had separated his two selves. He shared his story, how Judy's dance had shown him joy, the transformative power of embracing vulnerability, and the realization that fulfillment isn't merely felt in accolades but in authentic expression. As he transitioned seamlessly into a choreographed piece, he combined sharp, precise legal movements with expressive, flowing gestures that symbolized the liberating joy found in dance. In that moment, he embodied both the courtroom tactician and the passionate artist. The diverse crowd watched in rapt fascination, no longer pigeonholing him into just one role. As the music concluded, the room erupted into enthusiastic applause. The emotional reaction swelling within him was unlike anything he had ever felt before. Each clap resonated not just as validation, but as an acknowledgement of his journey, a steadfast blend of courage, vulnerability, and self-acceptance. That night marked a defining moment in his life. His partner approached him, her expression transformed, admiration glimmering in her eyes. "You've not only grown as a dancer, but as a person. Allow this to redefine your legacy," she said, solidifying her support for this new direction. Ethan realized he had conquered not only the fears that had held him back, but had also rewritten the narrative of who he was. He had cultivated an exceptional ability to balance both worlds, establishing himself as a versatile figure capable of embracing the full range of human experience. In this profound state of newfound identity, Ethan proceeded to enact change within his firm, advocating for work-life balance and creative expression as part of professional growth. No longer shackled by the fear of judgment, he became a beacon of inspiration to his peers, showing that vulnerability could coexist with success. As Ethan stepped confidently into his future, he felt an unwavering sense of satisfaction and accomplishment sink deep into his bones. The path ahead was laden with uncertainty, but he had established the courage to embrace it. He had conquered not just the dance, but had emerged as a symbol of authentic expression, a testament to what it truly means to be fulfilled. This was more than a performance or a profession. This was life, lived boldly and unrestrained. The standing ovation echoed in his heart. He was finally the man he'd always aspired to be. Now more than ever, it was vital to share this journey and encourage others facing similar struggles. He understood the importance of expressing this metamorphosis with as many people as possible. You need to subscribe now to our channel if you want to witness more incredible stories of personal transformation. This is the moment to show your support and push forward with us. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see what true courage can achieve. And please, leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and let these powerful stories reach those who need them most. Your engagement means everything. Don't just be a spectator. Join this movement towards genuine self-discovery.